Hey, I'm Sam.
I'm Gray.
And today we're reviewing Little Amélie, or The Character of the Rain, directed by Liane-Cho, Kuang, and Maïlys Vallade.
Not bad.
Et le miracle eut lieu.
Je vous présente Nishio-san. Elle va venir nous donner un petit coup de main.
T'étais la seule à me voir vraiment telle que j'étais.
N'oublie pas qu'un jour elle grandira et elle t'oubliera, comme tu as toi-même tout oublié.
So, Little Amélie, or The Character of the Rain, I like that it's doing the Birdman and Doctor Strangelove thing of having an or, which is kind of like when you can't decide on a title, you go, okay, I'll do two titles.
Yeah, sometimes something needs two titles.
Yeah, it tends to be like when the title is too long or pretentious.
Yeah.
You give it a shorthand one, like Birdman, instead of calling it The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, which is not a good title. Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, which is just too much of a mouthful. You go, oh, it's Doctor Strangelove, or oh, it's Birdman, or oh, it's Little Amélie.
Yeah, bite-sized.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But in these two titles work together in tandem. There's a really sweet scene in the movie that kind of reveals what the Character of the Rain means. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But this is an animated film that is a cross-cultural collaboration between Belgium and Japan.
First of all, very cool to see an animated project by like two different countries like that. It's an adaptation, right?
Like also like autobiographical.
And we follow this girl's experience of growing up in Japan when they're from Belgium. Like right from the beginning, you get such a sense of how abstract they're willing to go and how the surrealism plays into everything, and then how it's fittingly surreal because you're being put in the perspective of just like being born, which is already so fascinating in the way that like innocence is portrayed in that way through the use of animation. That's definitely taking inspiration from like watercolor and like bright pastels and everything like that. And we're being told that this baby is God, basically, which is such a cool way, I thought.
By the baby itself.
By the baby itself,
like,
yeah. Like, I thought it was such a cool way of how we experience gaining consciousness, because, like, that's, you know, when we start gaining sentience, it's like, oh, like, it's such a big thing to try and put into words that it's basically impossible.
Yeah.
That and like you know, everything to you is so brand new, and it's basically like you're in the center of everything, it feels like.
Yeah.
So that was such a great way of summing up that entire experience of just being born, but like really well done.
It's really, really big ideas to try to tackle.
Yeah.
The film is extremely ambitious in that way. Like the actual scope of the story is pretty small and personal. It's tied to just this one family and a couple people who interact with this family. So like very, confined. But it's tackling these huge ideas of like what it means to be born, what it means to grow up, what it means to like, the portrayal of just like that childhood innocence, that like blank slate of a child to be molded and formed. And then that gets into the cross-cultural production thing where it's like the family's Belgian, but they're living in Japan. So it's like your environment shapes who you are and the people around you shape who you are. And there's a bit of a conflict in those here where like the other family members still consider themselves Belgian, but little Amélie has no knowledge of Belgium other than the white chocolate, I guess, which is a fun little moment.
Mais
I wanted to talk about the whole being born thing, because like that's a thing that movies have tried to tackle before, and it tends to come off as these days a little cliche, but going back further, more kind of like pretentious, like as an idea. It's so easy to flub that. It's like, oh, we're doing this. Like, who do you think you are to tell us the experience of being born? You know, like the Tree of Life did that, I think.
I was gonna bring that one up. Yep. Like that, and I feel like one of the best decisions here for it being like the case for it being animated is like you really like to do it in live action to try to portray what being born is like. That's, I don't know, just animation makes it so much easier to portray like such abstract things.
Yes.
And to have it more relatable, and to have it more like toned down in a way that doesn't feel pretentious, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those limitations, but also like the strengths of animation make it a lot more doable.
Yeah, when they introduce the idea of being born, it's not presented as that to you at first. You have to like kind of figure out that's what's happening.
Right.
Because we're hearing the narration of Amelie, who thinks she's God. So she's presenting it as like God created the universe, and God chose to exit a shell, and God decided to speak, but it didn't sound like words and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things. It's really cool. It's a very personal story, but it's not afraid to like bend the laws of reality. And it kind of plays with what's happening and what isn't. Like it's very deeply rooted in the perspective of Amelie. Like we're so deeply rooted in her perspective, and it's clear that everything is like filtered through the way she views the world, which is very unique in like a childhood kind of way, but it's not just like generic, oh, kids are full of wonder. It's that, but also like really refined and strengthened and unique to a specific POV, which is what makes us a good character and a good like character to not just follow, but like understand the way she views the world. It was reminding me of, not in any literal sense, but of a movie like The Enigma of Kaspar Hauser, to get really pretentious, with an old 70s German film. Where
That's
Kaspar
awesome.
Hauser is this guy who was, and that one's based on a true story, but very loosely, of this guy who was raised in isolation by a guy who basically like locked him in like a prison cell from the time he was born and beat him and shaped how he viewed the world and all this stuff. And then one day he just got let out into the world. So he has like a truly unique perspective on everything.
Right.
And he views things in a way that's like, people could view it as like, oh, he has no education, so he's like really stupid. Or it could be like, oh, he's seeing it in a way that's really beautiful, and other people aren't capable of interpreting things in this other way.
And then that also reminds me of like such a completely different movie, but what we just watched, Pinocchio, where he got lobotomized, so it's not necessarily the same thing.
Frankenstein.
No. The
Pinocchio?
Yeah. The Japanese film.
Oh, that Pinocchio. I thought you meant like actual Pinocchio.
No.
Oh, 964 Pinocchio.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the numbers. The Pinocchio.
Yes, it is kind of like that, yeah. Actually.
They lobotomized Pinocchio.
Yeah, it's like, what do you...
That's awesome. But yeah, he keeps like, they do a similar thing also like Frankenstein, where like they're trying to teach language and everything, so it is very similar in that way too.
Yeah, that's what I thought you...
Yeah, that's so funny.
I was going to also mention Dougie Jones, because that's another...
Yeah, oh my god, there's so many.
Yeah, but so it's like all of those, but in a very specific to this child who thinks she's God. And that carries throughout the movie. I was wondering if they were going to drop that or stick with it, and they do.
I'm glad they stuck with it.
And then like they play with, could this kid actually be God? And you don't really believe it, like it telegraphs itself well enough, but there's also like, I really like that it left in just enough of a possibility where like, it seems like she's causing earthquakes almost at the start.
Yeah.
And then it seems like she's like, it almost seems like her emotions are externalized in the world through both earthquakes
Definitely.
and through rain. And then even through like flowers blooming in springtime and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it fits with like, oh, a kid could feel like it's this, but also, I don't know, it's just really, it's really beautiful and innocent in a way that like, I feel like a lot of movies attempt, and it comes off as like a little forced or like twee, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it reminds me too, real quick, of just how linked with nature you can be while you're growing up and you're experiencing it in such a, because you also grew up in a similar way, but like I'd bring up like the home I lived in Lake City in Florida. Middle of nowhere, don't go there.
Yeah, don't go to my hometown either.
Yeah, don't do it. But I would always get like, one of the strongest memories I have for childhood is like the way flowers would bloom in like the spring, because there would be like these big fields of like wildflowers that were just everywhere. And then like what seasons it would rain the most and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it'd always be something to look forward to as a kid, and it would mark such like big moments in developing. So That's really cool too, to look at it like that.
Yeah, and that was also making me realize, I hadn't thought about this before, but I think that also fits the cultural commentary going on between Belgium and Japan.
Right.
Where like nature is such a big part of like Japanese like art in general, like through haikus and through movies. Like when I first started getting into Japanese cinema, like way back, one of the first things I noticed was how much more present weather is.
That's true.
Like in American movies, it's like, oh, it's a dark and stormy night, and that's like the extent of weather, unless it's like about like a hurricane or something.
Yeah, it's usually about like that specific. Yeah.
But in Japanese movies, so often it's just like the wind is such a key part, like the breeze moving through a field, or rain that isn't meant to convey scary atmosphere. You know, just rain. That's rain being rain, and adding to the sense of place and the tone in a much more subtle way. Like the way Akira Kurosawa does it, or the way Yasuhiro Ozu does it.
Even Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
Yeah, both Kurosawas.
Yeah, especially in Retribution, the way the weather was in that one.
Totally.
Yeah, that's really cool.
In this movie, and it feels like here it's like the weather is only appreciated by the Japanese characters and Amelie, who is like, who feels more Japanese than Belgian. The Belgian parents, they don't really care about the weather. I mean, they have like a snowball fight at the end. They still like appreciate the snow.
There's even that moment at the beach where like the father had come back, and he was kind of just it was like he was appreciating it a little bit, but he was like buried in sand and whatever, but he wasn't really like paying attention to the waves or the ocean or like any of the actual details of anything. So you're right, like that was a huge cultural difference. Certain experiences were like unlocking the god's powers of Amelie. And like the first thing the chocolate, or was that the second thing?
I think the like earthquake was the first thing.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a vegetable until an earthquake happened. Because when she's being born, the doctors call her a vegetable. Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm a god. But she can't move or talk or think. And they do this crazy time-lapse shot where she basically just sat in one spot for 2.5 years. Yeah. And then she stopped being a vegetable there. But then when the white chocolate happened, so her grandma comes to visit, gives her white chocolate from Belgium, which I guess is like the only Belgian thing she has a connection to. She describes it as being born at 2.5, which is such an interesting idea.
Yeah, because that's also reminding me of that whole thing of gaining sentience after you're born, where it's like you can remember these very specific things, where you could technically portray it like that, where it's such a great little thing, but it's so simple, but yet it's like, oh my god, I'm alive or whatever. Like it's so sweet. I love it.
Yeah, and then they do portray this character as like almost supernaturally smart, because like as soon as she has this white chocolate, she's able to speak in like full sentences, and she knows like language and all this stuff. But she's not like an adult in a tiny body. She is still like a child. But it's more like the way she expresses herself is far beyond her years, but she still has the childlike perspective on everything. Right. And she still doesn't know like what death is at first. She has to have that like explained to her, things like that. Right. So she's not like fully omniscient.
Yeah, it's like a reverse Poor Things scenario.
Yeah, Poor Things is another good point of reference.
Yeah, that's actually, that works. Because the parents in this, you just wonder how their parents, you wonder how their kid's alive, actually. Because, like, there's, like, this very clear lack of communication from both the mother and father towards Amelie, where...
Yeah, specifically her, because she has a brother and sister, too. Yeah.
And they do this thing that I feel like a lot of people can relate to hearing when they were very young, where you ask these big questions, and since they don't want to really take the time to answer it, they go like, you'll understand when you're older. Yeah. And it's like, no, it's such a cop-out. Like, you could easily explain that, and so that's why the nanny character becomes so important, because she's like actually taking the time to explain these huge ideas.
Yeah, we get a great scene that illustrates the fact that it is a cop-out to just say you understand when you're older, because the parent says that, and then we immediately have she asks the same question of the nanny, who takes the time to, get on Amelie's level and explain this to her. in like a way
she
that is
did.
kid-friendly but not condescending. Yeah.
Yeah, because people always kind of assume that, like, explaining something to a child has to be condescending in a way, where it's, like, not necessarily condescending in a way that they would think it was.
Right.
But it's like, oh, you have to dumb things down because it's a child.
Yeah.
But children are smart. Like,
Yeah.
like, being able to handle bigger ideas as long as you make it bite-sized enough to do it.
Je revenais au commencement.
I think we should say at this point, like, from the look of it, and I know some people just see animated in general and they think it's a kid's movie, but also from the look of this one, it's very, like, round and fluffy and
Very.
pastel colors and all that. It looks like it could be a kid's movie. And I think it is, like, kid-friendly enough.
Oh,
I'd put it on the
absolutely.
level of, like, a Pixar movie where there's some more, like, adult themes. There's a lot for, like, adults to chew on.
Yeah.
And it's better than, like, any of the recent Pixar movies.
Yeah,
that
it's like
that I've
old school
known of.
Pixar, maybe.
Yeah, like back when they were actually good. But also, like, it's not that similar in terms of, like, style or anything like that. Just more, like, level.
Kind of like All Dogs Go to Heaven and, like, The Iron Giant. I wrote to my professor at SCAD during one of my animation classes for, like, the fundamentals. He was like, write something about, like, how an animated film, like, changed, like, your thoughts, like, when you were really young or something. And I knew he worked on that movie as, like, an effects, like 2D effects. And then he also worked on a bunch of other ones, like Lilo and Stitch and whatever, which was, like, fantastic.
That's awesome.
And I wrote about how much I loved All Dogs Go to Heaven because I was like, it was the first time I saw anything that made me think about death at all. And it was and it's like, yeah, it's so important in a kid's movie.
It is.
Because, like, just like this character, it's like my parents never took the time to explain to me really what death was. Yeah, because it's such a scary topic, but you have to, if you're going to have a kid, you have to.
Yeah.
And then, like, in the realm of movies, it's such a wonderful way of exploring it. So, really cool.
Yeah, movies are, like, good, well, like, they're good conversation starters for everybody, but, like, especially for, like, these, like, big ideas like death and, like, kind of like identity, too. And this one is a big one, cultural identity especially.
Absolutely.
But also, like, identity, like, within a family. Like, there's this interesting thing with, like, the siblings and, like, how she fits into the family or doesn't fit into the family.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stuff going on thematically. Like, another thematic area it gets into is, which was unexpected for me, is it gets into, like, World War II talk.
It does, absolutely. That becomes, like, a big thing.
And particularly World War II in reference to like how different generations view it. Because there's the landlady who's older, and then the nanny who's younger, and then Amelie who's, like, much younger. So there's different levels, and obviously the two who are, like, native to Japan have a much tighter history to it. But it does such an interesting thing with how those two at different generations view World War II, and specifically, like, Belgians. Like, the landlady is very prejudiced against them because she views them as, like, the enemy who, like, bombed her country and killed her other family members.
Right.
Like, I think they say her son and her husband were both killed in the war.
That's right, yeah.
And so she views them as being responsible, just as people who were not from the country. And then the nanny brings up, like, it was decades ago, you know, these particular people had nothing to do with it. Very interesting thematic work, and, like, really juicy drama, too, that kind of surprised and came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that particular part, like, the drama of that, I think the one thing I would want more of in this movie is just, like, a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like maybe the reason it didn't is because it's trying to stay in Amelie's perspective.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't be there for, like, all of those conversations. But yeah, what I really liked also is how that conflict tied into the themes of identity. Because the landlady's saying, like, if you forgive these Belgian people, or not even forgive them, but just, like, treat them well and get attached to them emotionally, you're, like, rejecting your Japanese heritage.
Right.
Which is just such a cool way to mirror Amelie rejecting her like Belgian heritage.
Yeah, she literally at one point goes, "I'm Japanese.
Yeah.
I've turned Japanese."
Yeah, it's that turning Japanese song, but not in a racist
Oh
reference.
my god.
Yeah.
And then like the way that the parents don't really introduce her to any cultural stuff from Belgium except the chocolate, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't really offer her any sort of perspective other than the one that she gains through just going out and being in nature and with the nanny and everything like that.
But then they go, "Oh, we're going home.
Yeah.
Meaning we're leaving
And
what
it's
she
not
considers
home,
home."
so
Yeah.
yeah. Such a... I hate the parents. I hate the parents in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't stand them.
And I really like, actually, that they're not, like, painted as negatively as they could be if the goal was, we want you to hate these parents. They're painted, like, very realistically, I think.
They are.
Where they're not, like, mean to her ever. They're just very, like, preoccupied with their own stuff and with the other kids, and they're very, like, negligent.
They are.
And they don't have as much, like patience, or not even like patience, but just like they don't give her any kind of time or attention that she needs.
Like the mom especially, just sitting at home playing the piano while she misses out on all these big moments for her daughter.
Yeah.
But I also really liked how they did give them moments where you could see the humanity in all these things in them.
Yeah, and they're just like negligent, like they like let her like wander into like dangerous situations and stuff.
You know, if you've been around like anyone raising a child, or if you've raised a child, like if you look away for a split second, you could be missing something really big.
Yeah.
Like there was this
Kids
whole
are so
thing.
fragile.
Yeah. There was this one thing I heard about. I'll be really quick with this because this could turn into a whole thing. But there was always a story in my family where my grandmother left my dad alone in his crib when he was like toddler, like he was like coming out of that age of being in a crib and whatever. She went to go like do something, laundry maybe, I don't know. And he got out of the crib, walked out, got outside and started walking down the road. And so, and she had a heart attack and started running around asking the neighbors like, hello. And thankfully, I guess my dad was fine, but then she like learned a pretty hard lesson there. Like you look away for a couple of minutes and all of a sudden your kid's out the. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Let's pivot a little bit and talk about the animation specifically a bit,
Yes.
since that's such a big part of this, of course, because like it's very striking. One of the most striking things about it really is the color palette. And it's a very varied color palette, like it changes throughout the movie, and it kind of filters through a few, but it feels very uniform. It's like uniform while also being diverse and just like so striking visually and so beautiful. And I really liked that it really takes advantage of the medium. Like sometimes you watch an animated movie and you're like, oh, this could be live action and not much would change, you know?
Yeah.
But on this, it's like they really get, like a lot of it feels like that. Like there are stretches where you're like, yeah, this could be live action. If you had like a really great child actor,
Right.
if you set that aside, it could be live action. But then you have great sequences like which you see spring for the first time, and you get these more exaggerated, more like subjective kind of portrayals of her like bouncing across the tops of flowers and they're like humongous and stuff like that. Or when, well, obviously all the stuff at the start with the birth and all that. And then, like one really standout sequence for me was when the nanny is talking about death and she starts talking about World War II because that's like her direct relationship with death most directly. Yeah. She uses like, or the animation uses her cooking while talking about this to evoke the feelings of war, where everything gets really exaggerated and big, and we have like the sounds and feeling of bombs dropping becomes like carrots dropping into a pot of soup and stuff like that. In a very like evocative way. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I was trying to remember. I knew when we watched it, I was like, this is one of the coolest parts of this. And then I forgot, so I'm glad you brought that up because it is so insane the way they do it, where they're not showing you any of the actual violence, but everything with the cooking and like, you know, because when you're cooking, you know, you're using these instruments and making like really harsh movements and all these different things, and they just they did such a good job of using that to tell that story. It's really, really, like, beautifully made, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really great, like, craft on display. And it's like, that wouldn't work in live action. You could attempt the same thing, but it would come across like, for one, you wouldn't be able to get some of the, like, more exaggerated shots. Like, you could still do the sound design stuff, and it could maybe work, but it just, I love when an animated film really takes advantage of the medium that it's in.
Yeah.
And this does it. It's really good in that regard.
There's this really beautiful moment shared between Amelie and the nanny where, so she's wanting, Amelie is wanting to know how to spell her name or what her name is in Japanese. She's being named after, like, the rain. So the nanny is introducing the character of rain in the language, the kanji. And so to show her how to spell it, how to, like, write the character, the window that they're facing has all this fog on it, and so she's, like, tracing, like, each stroke of the kanji is being done over the fogged window and everything, and she's, like, explaining all the context of like, what it represents and everything like that. And then I also really love how at the end of it, the fog's kind of fading, and then she, like, blows on it, and it gets really highlighted, and it's so beautiful. It's so well done. I love, because, like, every kanji has, like, this cool symbolism to it, and they did a really good job conveying that, especially to such a young child who's like, being completely mystified and, like, giving her an identity. But yeah, it's, like, a really big emotional moment, because she's, like, adding to her identity and finding something that she identifies with when she didn't have that before.
Totally, and I think that's the scene where she says that she's Japanese. But yeah, it's a beautiful scene. It earns its place as, like, the titular, scene of the movie.
Oh yeah.
And then it has a lot of resonance to it, and then they kind of circle back around to that idea toward the end in a really unexpected and really striking way as well. One area where I could see people criticizing the movie is that some of the emotional beats, like not so much the main conflicts, but, like, the big emotional scenes that happen, they do feel a little familiar. As in, like, you've seen them in other movies and other animated movies and other, like, kid and adult friendly animated movies. But they're executed so well that it helps them feel, if not fresh, still effective.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is very emotionally resonant, I would say. Like, it got both of us.
It got both of us.
In the feels, especially in, like, the third act.
Yeah, we both got emotional.
Which is, like, not that common.
So exciting for animation, because, we're in that age of AI. And you can tell, like, hopefully I don't have to, like, backtrack on this, but it seems like you can tell there's no AI used in this. And because it just feels so emotive, everything, like, from the character animation to the environments and the effects, like, everything, all the colors, just so human that you could not replace with just a machine. Like, it's just night and day difference. So it's really exciting to see that these projects are still being made. I hope the earnings for it kick up a little bit after you were mentioning.
I was just looking at the box office, and oftentimes the big sites that report the box office are definitely, like, America-centric, so sometimes the figures aren't right for, other movies. But right now it looks like this movie's at a huge deficit. That being said, it hasn't had, like, a wide release other places. I think it had its U.S. release, which is probably a very limited one. I think it had that a couple days ago at the time of recording, or actually yesterday or the day before.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Check it out if it's screening near you.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the watch. We both recommend it.
Yeah, I want to put this at, like, 7.5, maybe an 8. Is like leaning around there. I don't know, emotionally it sticks with you so much that it does feel like it earns, like, a higher end of that score, I think. What would you give it?
I'm right in that same area. I think 7.5 is a good score.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's where we'll wrap this one up. This is going on the main channel, but Gray and I have done a few reviews over on the side channel, Brickwall Unplugged. So if you want to hear us talk about a few movies from last year, we covered The Substance, Warfare,
Good times.
Red Rooms,
Oh.
Memoir of a Snail. There's reviews over on the other channel for those ones.
Oh, speaking of powerful animated movies, the
Yeah.
Memoir of a Snail. Oh,
That was really good.
how did I almost forget about that one?
And that one didn't get much of a release, sadly.
Yeah, which was crazy to me.
Anyway, we have a full review for Memoir of a Snail over on the Brickwall Unplugged channel. I'm sure it's on screen right now, so check that out. And see you next time.
See
So
ya.
long.
Happy holidays.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.